Yes, welcome to the No Stay Project live from my YouTube stream. No Stay Project there on YouTube. Glad to be with you here for episode 53 already of the big broadcast. It's February 28th, coming to you live from the fortified compound in Mesa, Arizona. Glad to be with you here. If you're being attacked by a bureaucrat, or you just want to discuss anarchy, you're getting to a voluntary society, or, as always I mention here on the big show, whether it's the Wednesday broadcast commercial-free, or we are on the LRN stream, which I will be live this Saturday, March 3rd. I, unfortunately, will not be streaming here on YouTube. But you can still catch the show, the entire show, on LRN.fm. And I will be posting the show also on my YouTube channel here, No State Project. So I want to get to the calls. You know, a big thing is a couple of things I want to get through here. I have always welcomed dissent on the show. So anyone who ever claims that I don't censor nearly or moderate nearly what I should be doing. I get, that's a big complaint. I know you guys, you gotta moderate things more. I'm not a big guy for doing that. Look, most people who are attacking or criticizing my work, it's usually nothing but endless insults. Or if they have an actual argument, I'll address the argument. I won't necessarily mention their name because their name isn't even relevant. Because most of these people, most of the critics, if not all the critics, are so unworthy of attention anyway, so I just rather attack the argument and show where their arguments are false and then get into anything about them personally, because I typically just don't give a damn. The kind of criticism that I get here on the show is infantile. It is something that reminds me of high school again, and again, I'll address arguments, but the insults, some of them can be funny. There was one I saw a couple weeks ago that actually was kind of funny. But yes, dissent is always welcome. So if there's an argument or a position that I put out here on the show and I'm wrong, hey, I can change my position. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But you're going to have to address the actual argument instead of strawmanning it like bureaucrats do. Like I'll talk about in a moment about this IRS call yesterday. Holy crap. Wow. Thanks for listening in, Michael Marconi. Do appreciate it, but I'll get more info. I'll get into that in just a moment, so please bear with me. I do appreciate people like Michael Marconi tuning in. A little disappointed he may be Italian, although I am Sicilian, still close enough. I hate to think that I'm sharing a heritage with people like this, but hey, what can you do about that? It's not like they're actually familiar. Dissent is welcome. Please, if one of my arguments is wrong, just do us all the favor and address the argument. I don't understand why you need to go on social media and just, again, I don't have many critics, but there's no reason to do that. But, hey, what are you going to do? Facebook, I use Facebook for one thing. I made a mistake. I responded to a post. This is what happens. Facebook is absabafongul to Facebook. I use it for promotion. So I got to keep to my policy and not actually address anything on Facebook. If you're a friend and actually a friend, someone like Eyal, I could just, or Matt. And by the way, I want to let you know this show is brought to you by a good friend Dan and Bill from the formerly of the Twin Mountain Country store up in New Hampshire. I appreciate all the support, guys. If you have dissent, you're welcome to call. Just please address the actual arguments that I'm making. I don't, the insults, don't bother me with the insults. But Facebook is cancer. I will not be responding to any more comments on there. If somebody has a disagreement with something that I've posted, and I know I post on Facebook and post the show all the time on Facebook, I'm not going to respond to any more posts on Facebook. So if you go there and there's 400 posts from one guy, I'm not going to respond to it. I'll take the responses in real time, where we have a record of it, but I will absolutely not be responding to Facebook anymore. I can't stand Facebook as a medium. It brings out the absolute worst in people, it seems. And usually when we get on the show, we can have a rational, or at least a friendly kind of discussion where the insults, we don't have to hear and go through all the insults. So you disagree with what I have to say, great. And if you are one of these people who think I'm actually hurting somebody, bring the damn evidence. I think it is so misguided and so off point that if someone goes into court and just asks questions, and for example, what we have going on with Bao, is it my fault that Bao was held for a psychological evaluation because he asked if jurisdiction was an element of the charge? Let's not, I mean, come on. Asking a question about procedure is not grounds for psych eval and not grounds to hold somebody without their... So put the damn blame where it belongs. Cheryl effing Hardy, who put a man in jail without a single piece of evidence that there was jurisdiction in order to go to jail or even order a psychological evaluation. So to turn around and say it was me, I'm not one of these guys that are telling people to go into court and file an accepted for value crap and all that kind of garbage. So somebody who's coaching someone to go in and do accepted for value, or, oh, when they call the name, don't admit you're there. Say you're there only to administer to the estate. So when you do that, whoever... then yes, you are partially to blame for someone having a warrant for their arrest issued. But asking a question and questioning the prosecution's burden of proof, that's, you gotta put the blame where it belongs. It's on the predator with the robe on. So please. So you got Dissent. Give us a call, 218-632-9399. The passcode is 2020. If you can instant message me on Skype and let me know what your area code is and that you're in the queue, I will get you on before the other callers. Because Dissent, for some reason, maybe it's a guilty pleasure. And anybody who's heard ICBM knows why I have them on the air. But if you got Dissent, I'll put you to the headline. I don't want anyone saying that I censor things and that I'm afraid of Dissent. All right, so the other thing I want to get to before, because we always run out of time. We got Libertopia 2018 coming up in May. We're already getting the March, tomorrow. Libertopia.org. I will be speaking there, and hopefully, I'll definitely be bringing my Les Paul and my bass. So hopefully we get a blues jam with the guys from Living Brew Tea, which is an Oceanside at Barnwell Swift, and we can get a jam going. So definitely go to Libertopia.org today and sign up if you have not. So I will be doing a separate video on this because it definitely deserves its own video, and I've already got a full line of calls, so I don't want to really take away from callers that actually have problems that need help going through the court system. Oh, and I finally did post a few days ago. I did post the 4 tickets that were thrown out, and just today I got another one. So I won't make everyone wait as long for that one. Hopefully I'll get that up tomorrow. Yeah, Joe, I know. What's Facebook? Yeah, it is the world of cancer. And I just want to point out, I don't want to name any names here. Because it's not about the name, it's not about giving anybody attention. Somebody posted on Facebook, and a very popular guy on Facebook, and I don't have any personal issue with them, but I have a problem with somebody saying that the AR-15 or the M16 is a good weapon. I have put more than my share of rounds through an AR-15 or an M16. And I got to tell you, if I'm in a combat situation, I don't want an AR-15. I don't want an M16. That damn thing cost me an expert rating because it jammed twice in the last 10-round magazine. I don't want an M16 when my life depends on it. M16s are good for getting a lot of damage and killing a lot of unarmed people. But when there are people shooting back at you and you're in a combat situation, give me an AK-47 over an M16 any day of the week. So it's complete rubbish. The M16 is not a good weapon, at least in my experience, and I've had a lot of experience with an M16. Okay, anyway, getting back to Michael Marconi. Now, it's hard to pin down exactly where Mr. Marconi works with the IRS because he always calls me from a different number. In fact, he called me from an East Coast number. He's supposed to be in, I believe, in the San Francisco area. I don't know. But he is an IRS agent. And we spoke to him yesterday. And I don't have audio to post. Even if I did, it would be extremely difficult because the man didn't shut up. And there's so much talking over that it's very difficult to follow. But I do have copious notes. So as you see here, I have a lot of notes regarding what happened, because even if you're recording something, take your notes, because things go quickly and you want to be able to quote the garbage that is spewing out of their mouth. Yeah, I said it. And you want to be able to quote it back to them. And so what I mentioned before is kind of a straw man that they like to do. Instead of attacking or addressing your argument dead on and actually getting it right, they like to do what's called a straw man. And anybody who's familiar with the show should know what that is. And that's just basically where somebody makes an argument or they make a claim, and instead of addressing the actual claim, they do something that sounds similar. Or they just make something else up completely, and then they proceed to tear down that straw man. I'm not talking about the straw man that the Freemen and Sovereigns are talking about, which is no evidence for that. I'm talking about the fallacy, the logical fallacy that politicians use all the time. Bureaucrats, IRS agents, and yes, Michael Marconi. And I spoke to the man yesterday, and I knew, and I know that he's going to be reviewing this. And I should dedicate this one. Well, I'm going to have another video that I'll dedicate to Mr. Marconi. Very few IRS agents have ever done the research on me prior to a call. Now, we knew in advance we were dealing with somebody who is not very friendly. I mean, I told the client right off, I said, this guy, wow, he's very aggressive. Very aggressive. And so one of the things that he did was we asked the question, and he didn't want to talk to me, so the client had to repeat the question. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So he not only couldn't keep his mouth shut and not talk over the client, but he couldn't stop talking over me. So the client had to ask the question so that Michael would then answer. And the question was, do you have any actual evidence proving that your Constitution and Code apply and that there's jurisdiction over me? Meaning the IRS, because the IRS is asserting that there's jurisdiction because of what? A written instrument no one bothered to sign called the Constitution. Instead of answering the question, he said it was a frivolous argument, which very, very common. Very, very common what they do. A question is not an argument, even if you're leading to an argument based off of your questions. It doesn't magically change the grammar or the syntax or whatever, okay? It's still grammatically a question. You don't get the opportunity on cross-examination. Or let's say when you're in front of the grand jury, you're forced to do that. You're being forced to do that. You do not have the privilege of saying, when they ask you, did you file a tax return for 2014? You can't answer that by saying that's a frivolous argument, because it's a question. And just because they're going to use your answer as evidence to support their argument later doesn't mean the question in the moment is a damn argument. This thing is it. So can you actually avoid answering any questions on cross-examination just by saying, your argument's frivolous, sir? You're on cross-examination, Mr. Defendant, or Mr. Witness. I'm only asking you a question. It's not an argument. Yeah, but it's leading to a frivolous argument. Do you think that we can get away with that kind of crap? No. So it's called a straw man. He's reframing, and it's common. Because they don't like the ultimate argument, they have to avoid answering the question, which is all they're doing, by reframing your question as an argument so they can defeat it. So, look, let me ask my question, and you can even ask him. We're going to be calling Mr. Marconi back and asking more questions, hopefully. And maybe he's going, look, ask me, where do I bank? That's a frivolous argument. I can yell frivolous as much as any U.S. attorney. So I'll get into more about Mr. Marconi, but I do appreciate Mr. Marconi tuning in to the broadcast and researching. And for those who may not know, I've never hid that what happened to Mr. Back. I've discussed about Mr. Back at length here on the broadcast many, many times, and I'm still working with him on the appeal. Yes, he lost, and he lost bad. But you cannot discount the fact that the agent responsible for trying to prove that he had a liability and that he believed he had a liability, admitted on cross-examination, and I was there, this is the head of the Hendrickson unit. I can't remember her name. But she left the bench, the witness stand, screaming. She was livid. She was shaking. She was so upset with with him. I hate people like you who don't pay taxes. Just irate. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that she testified that none of the financial information that she provided, none of the banking documents, absolutely nothing she provided, whether it was documents or whether it was testimony, none of it proved that there was a tax liability. And none of it proved that James believed he had a liability and was obligated to pay. They convicted a man. So they won't say anything like that. They won't say that their chief witness admitted things like that because it doesn't fit the narrative. It doesn't fit. So they'll trot out things like that to try to discredit the work that I do and ignore all the people that have gotten things thrown out. They'll ignore all that. Just like bringing up that disgraceful crew. I won't give out the name. Always bringing up my friend Marc Edwards in Wyoming. They don't tell you that at the hearing, Bruce Gilbert was declared incompetent to give legal conclusions and legal determinations. Yet, he made those that the judge then later affirmed. So you can't have, that's the thing, you dishonest people like you people like Marconi. If you didn't have a prison system, if you didn't have the ability to make threats and follow through on them, nobody would take you seriously. How dare you pull these things out and then make your threats? That's what they do. They threaten you. They can't get you on evidence. They ignore things like this, things that are not reported by the courts. They don't, and even if it was, they don't care. They don't give a damn. So briefly, Mr. Marconi, when directly confronted with evidence proving his laws apply, actually said he didn't have any, and he'd have to do the research. I know, Mike, you gave yourself an out by saying you'd have to get on a computer and look up the law, but that's not what I asked you. He thought it was better that even though he couldn't produce a shred of evidence proving his claim the codes apply and there was jurisdiction, it was better to just do a levy. That's what we call bad faith. Look it up. But I'm going to do a separate video for you, Michael. It's deserving of a separate video. You know, and this is the thing. All these Republicans and even, voluntarists and, when they say, well, free market. We don't want government regulation. Neither do I. But when it comes to things like the internet and they turn around and they say, it's the market, free market. Free market. There is no free market when it comes to the internet. I have one single option. One. I can't go and get DSL. I can't do the show. I absolutely cannot broadcast this show with DSL, not with the company that's available. So there's really only one option that allows me to stream video. So I don't want to hear any voluntarist or anarchist or anybody screaming free market that it's a great thing that they don't want net neutrality. It's great if you have an option, if you have other options and there's actually a free market. Where is this mythical free market that these conservatives talk about? Where is this mythical free market that self-proclaimed anarchists are talking about? That we're all libtards if we dare mention any opposition to what the FCC was doing. I'm not a libtard. I'm an anarchist. I don't want government, period. But you can't sit there and tell me that the market's going to take care of something when you don't have a free market. How closely the telecoms work with the government at this point? I mean, what, seriously? How anybody after 2006 can believe something so stupid as that they're not in bed together? Free market? Please show me where there's a free market with the internet. And I'll sign up today. Because I can't find it. I tried yesterday. I really did. I didn't realize that when family looked up a certain internet, that they were looking up on their account and they don't live here. So I went down to the place yesterday. I said, hey, I want to get rid of my cable company. Even if the price is going to go up after 2 years, you're going to save me $2,500 over 2 years. And then he went and looked it up. He says, "That I don't understand. That whatever you're talking about, sir, is not available in Arizona." So there you go. So again, if you're going to start, if your argument about net neutrality involves the free market, step up to the plate and say, Mark, here's the free market. Because you can't just get another cable provider. And maybe when we actually have a stateless, governmentless society and you have options and you can say, well, there's a free market. Here's a cable company over here that's not going to charge you more if you want their competitors like Amazon or you want Netflix. They're not going to charge you more. They're not going to throttle something that, any kind of news that goes against their agenda. They're not going to throttle something that goes against, their narratives. Because they happen to own a competing news company. They're not going to do that. So when places like Cox Cable, if they want to throttle you and they want to limit what you can see, then you'll have an option to go over to Google Fiber or some other competitor that they don't do that. But until that time, your arguments for or against net neutrality that are based on the free market are null and void because there is no free market to speak of. That's the whole point. We want to build, it's agorism, we want to build a free market and have it replace what we have now. But we aren't even near that yet. Not even close. Hey, Mark, why don't we all do a complete resignation of agency and reclaim our names on the public record? If enough of us resign, they'll get the message. Good Lord. I mean, seriously? The name game? Jurisdiction boils down to this. It's in the name. Territorial jurisdiction. It's in the name. They don't give a damn about your name. They don't give a damn about your birth certificate. They care that you're physically in their sites. That's it. We want to get to a voluntary society. Yeah, it's mass non-compliance. Mass non-compliance. Yeah, someone's saying state-created monopolies are cool, didn't you know? Yeah, well, that's true. And I know all the money that they stole from us years ago for the telecoms that they were given hundreds of millions of dollars. Hundreds of millions of dollars to upgrade the infrastructure, and they didn't. So, yeah, that was something that really got to me. I hate this infighting, and that the beginning and end of somebody's argument on something like net neutrality is libtard. Here's a libtard. You ain't no anarchist. You're a libtard. What? You become an anarchist and you don't drop the black and white thinking. I mean, I thought it was a statist thing that if I was to say that I was against Trump and I didn't like Trump, they would say, oh, so you're a Bernie follower, and vice versa. Because that's the mindset. That's the mindset of people who think in libtard kind of language. If you don't agree with me, you must be for the other guy. In fact, instead of there being, a whole wide range of things that could be. It's just like when somebody says, hey, Phoenix is beautiful in January. And they immediately got to say, what about San Diego, jackass? What is... How narrow of a focus do you have to think like that? And it's the same thing with this libtard stuff. Or when you come out and say, oh, somebody needs a trip in a helicopter, learn some economics, get them up in a helicopter. Ay, 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 ay. Same thing. AR-15, not a good weapon. Somebody make a case for me why they would want an AR-15 or an M16 over an AK-47. Make a, post, that I'd love to see that. So, yeah, someone's saying they get called a libtard all the time. I get called that and worse. In fact, I've got somebody who's calling me a crackpot, and it's actually good that They weren't able to call today, and then I can't even take calls because that would have sucked if he did call in and I couldn't take the call because somebody I wanted, given the opportunity, maybe on Saturday show they were able to call in with an opportunity to take a few segments of my show to discuss exactly why I'm a crackpot and why I'm completely unhinged. And so one of the things that somebody's saying, no thanks, I'll take the AK. Well, of course you're going to take the AK-47. Who wouldn't take an AK-47 over an M16? The only thing I would say is someone who hasn't shot both and has experience with both of them would say that. AK-47 is far and away a better machine rifle. Far and away better. Anyway, that's not what I want to focus here on the show. Maybe I'll address a little... I don't want to get into the Marconi thing because I wanted to do a separate video for that. But since I don't have the opportunity to take calls here, and the show's been generally basically almost a disaster from the start, maybe we just have a shorter video. One of the things that I've been called a crackpot on and completely unhinged is because I have been in the habit for myself and for teaching others that challenging jurisdiction, we are doing that by asking questions, or when we do it by motion, in a motion to dismiss, we're pointing out that the prosecution hasn't met the burden of proof. Now, how... read from the book. I don't know if anybody wants me to just sit here reading. I'll do an audio version of the book soon enough. It's soon enough. It's been 4 years now. I should be able to get to that. But I just want to just address this issue, and then I'll probably cut the show a little short. The issue of jurisdiction. Is by a motion the only way you can challenge jurisdiction? I don't think so. And I would go so far as to say, let's say their rule was that the only way you could challenge jurisdiction was by way of a written motion. Does anyone think for a second that as an anarchist who is trying to limit the damage they want to do, that I would pay attention to that? What a stupid thing to do anyway. The idea that you can only challenge jurisdiction by a written motion? That is so mind-bogglingly wrong. Because what is one of the biggest lies that they tell us, everybody? Jurisdiction is a trial issue. Right? Jurisdiction's a trial issue. Why? Because it's not a pure theoretical issue of law, because they have to show your physical location. So that's why that alone. So anyone saying jurisdiction can only be challenged by a written motion or a negative averment, no. You're absolutely dead wrong. Because if jurisdiction's a trial issue, and it is, it's not only a trial issue, but it is a trial issue. That's what they all tell me. They put the cop on the stand and they have to show that you were physically in Arizona at the time. That's what they got to do. They got to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. Usually pretty easy to do. But what they can't do is show that just because you're physically in Arizona, that their laws apply. And I know from direct personal experience that every time you question a witness on that, they will declare them witness incompetent, won't let them answer the question, with the exception of Jermaine up in Calgary when the judge allowed him to answer, and of course he said he didn't have any evidence. Paisan, Bill, Mark, is it worth appealing an assessment in California by the FTB if you know you will pay them $0 if you submit? It kind of depends on the situation. If they're being really aggressive and you need them to stop, and so that you have an opportunity to hash out the issues, and you have some minor little chance of having the Board of Equalization actually review it and allow a hearing. Yeah, then Bill, I would go ahead and do that. But as far as and let me get back to the issue of jurisdiction. So here you can clearly see that because the police officer has to be put on the stand to prove jurisdiction at trial, that the idea that the only way to challenge jurisdiction is by a written motion, no, it's not true. And even if it was the rule, why should I stop putting the prosecution on the spot? Why? What possible reason would I have to listen to a rule written by a bunch of criminals that is only there to rig the game, as opposed to just going in, okay, and with an unsigned plea of guilty? I will plead guilty right now if the prosecution has met their burden, if there's any evidence proving your code applies to me. It would be, and the track record speaks for itself. So many people have gone in, and we've been able to get these things tossed out. How many times have we have general counsel for the NHES up in New Hampshire, Employment Security? We have them on record. There's no evidence of jurisdiction, and if they had to prove that, they couldn't prosecute anybody. Yeah, that's why they don't want that stuff recorded. That's why Bill couldn't record that. I have their own witnesses. Chris Leonis on record. I know the hard drive blew up, and I wasn't able to. I wasn't able to distribute it. I could probably do it now, but we lost all that footage. But every one of the witnesses, including Chris Leonis, not a shred of evidence proving it, and not even qualified to determine the laws apply in the first place. So I'm gonna cut the broadcast short here. I'll have the initial half hour or so that I'll post. Hey, look at this way. There's a lot less editing than I got to do to get this one posted. So hopefully whoever we missed today, I'm really sorry. Guys, we had a full boat of calls. I wouldn't have been able to get to even if I didn't have the problem. But the Wednesday broadcast here is in the can right now. I'll get the audio posted later. I'll get the success story, and I got a couple Call of Shames. Very difficult to listen to, but I'm going to post them anyway. IRS and from the criminal court administrator. I forget his name. It's Greg, but I'll get that posted. So whoever we weren't able to get to today, again, I apologize. We will get to you on the Saturday, March 3rd show. Okay, so unfortunately, this is the end of episode. Oh man, the end of episode 53 for February 28th, live from the fortified compound in Mesa, Arizona. And till next time, salud.